Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muliwanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Kathryn Holmes. She is here to celebrate her brand new chapter book, Madison Morris is Not a Mouse. Before we invite Kathryn into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by High Flyers, 15 inspiring women aviators and astronauts, written by Anne McCallum Statz. This is part of Anne's Women of Power series, and it is incredible. We meet some really amazing and inspiring women in this book. One of the women you're going to meet is Tammy Jo Schultz, whose story includes a harrowing catastrophic engine failure while in command of 148 people aboard Southwest Airlines Flight 1380. She saved those people, and it's amazing. Be sure to check this book out. It's going to inspire your daughters. It's going to inspire your sons. It's going to inspire you, and it absolutely deserves a place in your family library. High Flyers, 15 inspiring women aviators and astronauts by Anne McCallum Statz. This episode is also brought to you by Big Problems, Little Problems, written by former White House Chief Correspondent Ben Feller. Would you like to make solving life's problems a little bit easier for your kids and for you? Well, this is the picture book for you. Big Problems, Little Problems is a tale of how to conquer frustration no matter what the problem is. It is the story of how a dad teaches his son to avoid getting frustrated by having patience and perspective. It offers a surprising reminder of how children can teach grown-ups to appreciate what is really important too. This heartwarming father-son story is written for any family with young kids. You're going to love it. You're going to want it to be a part of your family library. Get it today. Big Problems, Little Problems by Ben Feller. Join us right now from New York City and New York. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new chapter book. It's part of her Class Critter series. Please welcome to the show the author of Madison Morris is Not a Mouse, Kathryn Holmes. Hey, Kathryn, I'm guessing you're not a mouse either.
I am not a mouse, no.
That's awesome. Welcome to the podcast. Tell us all about this book, please.
So the Class Critter series is chapter books, so for ages 6 to 9, and it takes place in a magical second grade classroom where every child gets the chance to turn into an animal for a single day, to have an adventure and maybe learn a lesson that helps them get through a kind of sticky situation. And so Madison Morris is Not a Mouse is the third book in the series. They're all standalones, and each book is about a different character. And Madison's story, she is a go-getter, a confident, outgoing kid who dreams of being a leader one day. She wants to change the world. But on this particular morning, she has a moment of self-doubt. She has a little bit of crisis. And in that moment, she turns into a mouse. And she's teeny tiny, she's squeaky, no one can understand her. And so her journey is rediscovering her confidence and her voice and turning back into herself.
You know, as you're speaking about that, it reminded me of so many confident young women that I know in my life. Young women who are, from a very, very young age, were just full of poise, full of confidence, but one little thing can really rock their world and send them into, turn them into mice.
I read something somewhere that, and I wish I could cite the actual source for you, but that most girls' confidence peaks at around 8 or 9 years old. And that is the most self-confidence they will ever have in their entire life. And I have a daughter. She's 5. And the thought of her only having a few more years of just believing in herself wholeheartedly is just devastating to me. So I definitely, I wanted to write a story about a confident girl who, we all have moments of crisis, but she has to like find her way back. And she ends the story kind of where she started, which is like believing in herself and feeling like she can achieve her dreams.
I think you and I should spend this next few minutes trying to figure out and solve that problem. That is horrifying to me. Mm-hmm. That most girls, the most confident they will be is when they're 8 years old. Now, I've met, my daughter included, at 8 years old, she was incredibly confident. But if that was it for her, that would have been horrifying. Thankfully, my daughter is a very confident and capable and accomplished young woman. But the thought that at 8 years old, it just would have went down. Do you have any idea what could be causing that?
The article that I read, I mean, it's the messages from the media. It's when body image doubts start to creep in. They're starting to get a lot of messages about their appearance. They may start to notice disparities between how men and women are treated by society or what they are urged to accomplish or urged to go after. I think that's about the age where maybe the veil gets pulled away. Mm-hmm. Of like even parents who raise their kids to be like boys and girls, any child can do anything they dream of if you work hard. Maybe there's that moment where it's like, but wait, look at how society actually looks. Mm-hmm. And they're old enough to kind of see past that.
So what can we do to alleviate this and fix it? Because that's a real problem. And it's an injustice, and mm-hmm. our world would be so much better if young women carried that confidence that they have at 8 years old throughout their lives.
Well, so one tactic that Madison learns through the course of her story is that, the morning of the story, the class is doing an activism project, and they've all been encouraged to bring in ideas for what they can do as a classroom community to make their broader community better. And Madison has a million ideas. She's so ready. And in the car on the way to school, an older family member starts to discourage her ideas, and that gets in her head. And she starts hearing that negative voice every time she wants to speak up. She hears that negative voice. And so a tactic that she learns is dismissing that negative voice and saying, be quiet. I'm not listening to you. You're not being helpful to me. And it's actually a tactic. So I also write young adult novels, mm-hmm. and my second young adult book, it's called How It Feels to Fly. And it's about a ballet dancer who has body image issues and anxiety as a result of it. And when I interviewed psychologists who work with artists for that book several years ago, that was one of the biggest tactics that was recommended to me then, was figuring out how to shut up the inner critic, mm-hmm. or how to discern the difference. Even a child can do this, the difference between a criticism that is helpful, mm-hmm. that might be something that you can act on, versus a criticism that's just negative. So when I was writing Madison, trying to figure out how to translate that advice to a much younger audience, and how she can figure out how to, like, if the voice in her head is not being helpful, if it's just telling her she can't do stuff, she doesn't have to listen to it. Mm-hmm. And just being that simple.
That is an important skill to teach all of our kids, not only our young girls, but
mm-hmm.
all of our kids. It's an important skill for a lot of adults to learn.
Absolutely.
At this point in their life. Man, there's so much... Because when my daughter was growing up, I was very aware that my words mattered. And I tried to the point where I would be doing mental gymnastics and, almost considering 18,000 different sentences before I would speak, especially when it came to anything about body image or weight or conditioning. And I just knew that one maybe well-meaning word said in a careless way could really hurt my daughter. I'm sure I made lots of mistakes. I am sure my daughter could come on and just list my mistakes and take 4 or 5 episodes to list my mistakes. But I think the correct things I did outweigh those mistakes, hopefully, because she's a really successful person right now. But I think that's something that, as parents, we should all be aware of, just to be aware that our words and our tone do mean so much to our kids. We are the most important people in our kids' world, even when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 years old and they're acting like they hate us. We're still the most important people in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's wonderful that Madison kind of pulls it together and it solves her problem. I'm thinking that this would be a wonderful book to not only just to read because it's a lot of fun, but I think it would be a wonderful book to sit down with that intention of, as a parent, hey, let's read this book together. Let's co-read this book, and then let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my intentions with each of the books in the series is, I hate to say each one teaches a lesson because I think then people start to worry that it's just didactic, it's not fun. And I think each of the books are really, really fun. But each kid turns into an animal at a moment where they need to learn something or they need to get something out of the experience. So the first book is Tuttle turns into a turtle. And she is a shy girl on the first day of school in a new town. And she's so afraid she's not going to make any friends. And then she turns into a turtle and her experience helps her come out of her shell. And so, in that one, you can talk about, there's the idea of catastrophizing, how deciding that the worst case scenario is just destined to happen can make you not act and do anything otherwise. And then, in Madison's story, do you choose to listen to the naysayers or do you choose to continue to pursue this thing that you feel like you're destined to do? So I think each of them are really great for reading together with kids because they're elementary school classroom situations, like friendships, making new friends, meeting new people, getting up in front of the class and standing up for what you believe you can do. Or in the second book, David Dixon's Day as a Dachshund, he is the mischievous class clown, funny kid who's always up to something. And he brings his puppy to school for show and tell, and the puppy escapes. And as he's chasing his puppy through the school, he turns into a dog himself. And at first he is having so much fun running amok, making a big mess. But then he has to kind of figure out, wait a second, I'm responsible for my puppy. There's a level of responsibility. And so the nice thing about each of these books being a standalone, all you need to know to read any of the books is that it has happened to other children. Mm-hmm. But each one of them stands completely alone because it's about a different character. And so a parent could even look at the different books and say, oh, I have a shy kid. Mm-hmm. Let me look at that Tuttle. Or, oh, I have the child who maybe needs to stop and think before acting. Let's look at David Dixon together. Mm-hmm. So I think, there's a lot of potential for conversations, which is what I was hoping to have happen when I was writing the series.
I think a lot of times we catastrophize as parents. We're certainly bombarded by messages in the media, that everything is the worst it's ever been and there's no hope and we shouldn't even try. And I think a lot of times as parents, because we care so much about our kids, we want to protect them. We don't want them to take unnecessary risks. But the fact of the matter is our kids need to take risks. They don't need to take foolish risks, but they need to risk. They need to fall down. They need to get bumps and scrapes and have their feelings hurt and learn how to get back up from those situations. And it's from getting up from those situations that they build their grit and they build their resilience and they build their confidence.
Yeah, and one of the other things that Madison learns over her journey is that you don't have to be at the end point of your journey right now. Like she kind of decides in her moment of crisis, I'm never going to be a leader. I'm never going to make a difference in the world. And then while she's a mouse, she manages to make a difference in a very small way, but that is a very meaningful way to another character she encounters. So the idea that everybody starts somewhere and you don't have to be at the end of your journey yet. You're on a spectrum. You're beginning somewhere. And then I hope that this book also gives kids the idea that they can make some kind of a difference in their community. Mm-hmm. Whether, Madison throws out a whole bunch of ideas about what projects she might want to do, and her classmates have ideas, paint a mural in the park or work with shelter dogs or do, all these different things. And all of them would make a difference. Mm-hmm. So I think there's also this idea, like you're saying, we're being bombarded with bad news. And there's this kind of fatalism of like, well, we can never fix these big things that are going wrong, but we can fix small things. Mm-hmm. And we can fix local things, and even kids can be active in their local communities, whether it's their school community or a community of faith or their city or whatever that community means to them. Mm-hmm. There are things that kids can do. They don't have to fix everything all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's those little victories that we experience and that we can help our kids experience can really add up, not only in the kids' mm-hmm. lives, but actually make a significant difference in the lives of the people around us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great, great lesson for kids. And I'm thinking and I'm hoping that Madison can inspire families to go out there together to, at the end of the book, just turn and say, okay, little mouse, what are we going to do together? What problem in the community can we tackle? What problem here in our home can we tackle together and make better?
Yeah. What is something that you see in your daily life that could be better than it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how can we get that started?
Was there something or someone that inspired the Classroom Critters series?
The inspiration. So originally I thought I was just going to write a Tuttle series about a girl who transforms into a turtle and transforms back at the end of each book. So she was the first character that I had in mind. And then I was working on her story and I was like, well, no, I feel like her journey is done. Mm-hmm. What if every kid in the class got to do this? And then there's different kids with different situations and different ideas. The inspiration was so my own daughter is 5. So when I started working on this, she was not anywhere near chapter books yet. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I walked through the chapter book section and I picked up a lot of things and I read a lot of backs of books and tried to get a sense of what was out there and where maybe I could fill a niche. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 things. There was, I want to write an animal book, maybe something magical. And then I want to write about a shy kid because I feel like I was a shy kid. I wanted to maybe tell the story of a girl who was nervous and afraid and shy and needed to come out of her shell, which I've said before was my favorite, pun of the series. Mm-hmm. But, that was where it began. But then the idea of being able to tell different stories for different kids really just opened everything up. Yeah. And like Madison is kind of the opposite of Tally. Mm-hmm. She doesn't need to build confidence at the start of the story. She's already confident. She's friendly. She's outgoing. She's, if there were class presidents in 2nd grade, she would probably be the class president. But then that doesn't mean she doesn't have problems too. And so far the series is 3 books, but as I look forward to what the possibilities could be, it's really fun to think about all of the different kids and different issues that they might have and different ways that turning into an animal could help them solve that issue.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things is you're talking about Madison and kind of losing that great confidence that she has. I think that's one of the problems that so many kids and adults have, is that we have this impression that everybody has it together and everybody has confidence. So I better pretend that I have that confidence, even if I'm not feeling it right now, because I know that everybody else does have it. And maybe one of the things that we can do with our kids is to just let them know that, no, not everybody has it. And most of your friends in the school who are acting and making all the noise, they're probably the ones who have the least of it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's certainly something to be said for, like, dropping that mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to, even if you do usually feel like you've got it together, you don't have to feel, or you don't have to pretend
mm-hmm.
that everything is good when it's not good. And yeah, I would hope that Madison, after her experience, actually tells her friends what happened. Because at the end of the story, her best friend, she's like, "How did I do?" And she's like, "Oh, you seemed like your usual amazing self." But I think I would hope that Madison, this of course would be after
mm-hmm.
the conclusion of the book that I wrote, but that she would be able to say, I actually wasn't feeling like my usual amazing self. I actually had a hard time today.
Mm-hmm.
Or that maybe parents could talk with kids about that even if you go through the hard time and come out the other side, you still don't have to pretend like everything was okay the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Helping our kids just acknowledge what they are feeling and process it, and let them know that those feelings are okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can't help what we feel sometimes. We just have to learn how to control it and to make the best of it. Yeah. So is there another character that is sort of in the bullpen, so to speak?
I know who I would pitch
mm-hmm.
for books 4, 5, and 6. If my publisher asks me for more. So we have books 1, 2, and 3 are a shy girl, a mischievous boy, and then a confident girl. I want to do a fear story, like a legitimate phobia kind of overcoming story. I want to do a bullying kind of story. And I would really love to do a story where the character actually does something wrong and has to reckon with it.
Ooh.
Because in all 3 of the books that I've written so far, the character is having anxiety or having, kind of an emotional struggle, but they don't really do anything wrong. The most wrong thing is that David Dixon kind of makes a huge mess while he's a puppy. So I would love to try and write a story where the character messes up
mm-hmm.
and has to reckon with that mess up. Because I think also in this early elementary school age, there is a lot of, like, they now have the capacity to truly understand when they've screwed up,
mm-hmm.
but maybe they don't want to think about it, or they want to gloss over it. And like, no, if you mess up, you got to own up. You got to make it right somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the issues I would like to tackle if I am able to write more of them.
Well, we hope you're able to write more of them, and I know that people are going to want to know where they can go to not only find out more about Madison Morris is Not a Mouse and the other Classroom Critter books, but also be the first to find out if the publisher asks for those new books.
My website is KathrynHolmes.com, so KathrynHolmes.com. I have a newsletter there, so you could sign up and be among the first to hear about good news that's coming down the pipe. And then, my books are published by Abrams Amulet, so you can find more information about the class critters at abramsbooks.com.
We've had a great time speaking with the author of Madison Morris is Not a Mouse, the brand new chapter book in the Class Critter series by our guest, Kathryn Holmes. Hey, Kathryn, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guests will be Carrie Allen and G. Brian Karras. They'll be here to celebrate The Boy Who Loved Maps. I had a real fun time speaking with Carrie and Brian. I think you're going to enjoy it a whole lot. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, you are going to have a really enjoyable time visiting readingwithyourkids.com, especially if you click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. That's the way you find out how you can be a guest here on the podcast and tell the world all about your book in a long-form conversation. It's fun, it's easy, and it doesn't cost a thing. Oh, you can also find out how you can submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel. And you can learn about our really popular monthly promotion program. We will give you a package of promotion that includes commercials on the podcast, messages to our 100,000 plus social media followers, display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards, and have your book in our booth at whatever live event we'll be participating in a given month. In September of 2022, we will be at the St. Louis PTO Today Expo. Thousands of parents and educators from all throughout the Midwest go to this event. It's a great way to let those folks know about your event. And in September, we will be at the Orange County Children's Book Festival out in Costa Mesa, California. This is a book festival. It's the largest book festival, children's book festival in North America. It draws over 40,000 people. You and your book can be a part of both of those events. Go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, want to start by thanking our guest, Kathryn Holmes. Please be sure to check out Madison Morris is Not a Mouse. Also want to thank our sponsors, Ben Feller. Please check out Big Problems, Little Problems. Also want to thank Ann McCallum Stotts. Please be sure to check out High Flyers, 15 inspiring women aviators and astronauts. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Brady, Nicole Bel Castro, Mirabella Q, Rain Penn. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.